Welcome to episode 6 of my first marathon series. Today is Saturday, September 28th. We are in Jersey City for the New Jersey Half Marathon at Newport. It is about 6:45. We got about an hour and 15 minutes until we race. I'll be sipping on some coffee. I've got bagel number 2 right here. I'm probably going to eat a half of this, so I have 1.5 bagels. And I'm also sipping on some G1M Sport and electrolytes and some extra water just to make sure I'm ready to go for a race. All right. As you can tell, it's raining. For most people that would actually be a bad thing, but for long distance runners it's actually pretty good. Unless the roads are really slick and there's puddles, the rain actually cools you off. There's no sun to beat down on you. So it's actually conducive for some PRs. So today could turn out to be a really good race. I'm feeling good about this one. The game plan for this race is to go out the first 5K, 3 miles in about 5:25, and then the next 7 miles up until mile 10, I'll run at around 5:20 pace, give or take a couple seconds here and there, of course. And then the last 3 miles, 5K, I'm just gonna go as hard as I can, around 5:10, 5:15, see as fast as I can go. So, let's see. It is just about 7 o'clock and let's go do a 2-mile warm-up. I don't think I mentioned this in my race plan. I want to break 70 minutes. That's the goal. So 5:25 for the first 3 miles or so, 5:20 for the next 7, and then let it rip the last 3. Like I said, it is raining and it could be pretty windy, so I might have to make some adjustments if it's really windy or if the rain really starts coming down. But that's the plan. I've also never really raced a half marathon. This is my first time, so we're looking for a big PR. I ran 74 minutes last year when I made it like a workout, so the goal is sub 70. Let's go. So I am doing this alone today because unfortunately Sitch got sick and Chris is actually a pacer for the 85-minute group. So warm up, strides, all that stuff, we're alone today. 7:21. I'm going to do a few band activation drills, use the massage gun just to loosen up, do a few extra things to get myself ready. I'll put my uniform on and everything, and then I'll head over to the corral because we have to be there at the latest 7:45. So I figured I would just get there around 7:35, 7:40, do all my plyos and drills and stuff like that. So I'm not going to get any other footage after I do a few things here. I'll see you after the race.
You're the man. All right, Connor, man. Thank you, Connor. Runners, take your marks.
As mentioned, my goal was to run under 70 minutes with 5:25 for the first 3 miles, 5:20 for the next 7, and 5:15 or faster for the next 3. So let me walk you through it. So we make this loop and I hit the first mile in 5:23, so right under my goal, and then we make this right and climb one of the only hills on this course. We make this really sharp left and then we hit mile 2 in 5:24. So far everything is going to plan. Runners besides the leader were pretty close in front of me, and I could keep my eye on them. And then we hit mile 3 in 5:24, still feeling very in control. The energy was pretty good still, as we were still in the city. So I completed step 1, running around 5:20 pace, give or take a few seconds for the first 3 miles. And now I slightly picked up the pace for step 2, which was to run miles 4 to 10 around 5:20 pace. Mile 4, I hit 5:19, and still the runners in front aren't that far ahead of me. And right around here, I took my first gel as we approached mile 5, where I hit 5:19 again. And then still I'm feeling really good, telling myself to stay relaxed as possible for as long as possible. This is also where we make a complete 180-degree turn, which went smoothly, and I'm starting to pass runners that are going in the other direction. And then this is where I grabbed the water cup with electrolytes, but I didn't know it was electrolytes, and I missed my mouth completely, so it went all over me. But whatever. This is also where I thought I wasn't on the course, because there was cars going by me in both directions. I thought it was a cop, but it actually turned out to be a Jeep, and I was very confused. But there were a few spots like that, so that's one little negative that I had with this course, but overall it was pretty good. And then I hit mile 6 in 5:17, which I was happy with considering I had a complete turnaround at one point. And then at this point is where my friend Tom snapped this really cool photo of me. And now this is where the race started to feel like it wasn't a race, because I couldn't see the runners in front of me with the trees and stuff, and it was very quiet. And then now we hit mile 7 in 5:20, so staying on it. It was a little more difficult at this point, and I felt I was just doing a little more work since I was running by myself, but I felt strong enough to hold 5:20. So this part was visually nice, running through this path and on this park, and since it was flat, I could stay, in a really good groove running at that 5:20 pace. And as I'm approaching the waterfront, I hit mile 8 in 5:19, still staying right on that pace. And I'm also paying attention to the fact that I'm hitting the mile splits on my watch about 15 to 25 seconds earlier than when I passed that mile marker on the course. So I knew that I would have to make up, about 15 to 20 seconds by the end of the race to hit sub 70. And now I make the left-hand turn onto the waterfront, and this is where it all went downhill. The wind and rain just felt like a wall, but I was able to see the runners in front of me at this point again, so I fought, but I knew that this whole stretch was going to be very bad, and the weather defeated me. But I saw the Statue of Liberty, so that was pretty cool. I had never seen that very close up. I kept pushing. I kept it an honest effort. I did this loop right here and then hit mile 9 in 5:33. Then I continued to fight the weather by myself all the way up, passing Ellis Island, and then hitting mile 10 in 5:45. And then we were making some crazy turns this whole way, and we worked towards mile 11, knowing that the wind should be done pretty soon as I'm running in a different direction. And then I hit my slowest mile of the entire race of 5:48. And as I approached the city, I knew I had just over 2 miles left, so I tried my best to pick it up and use the energy of the crowd and the other runners. And now I hit mile 12 in 5:37, and I'm passing hundreds or even thousands of runners and getting some help from them. But I'm also dodging spectators too. So that was a little annoying because I'm trying to finish this race and they don't really pay attention to that side of the road because they saw that there was, a large group of runners on the other side, and they didn't really realize that there were some runners coming in the other direction. So now I hit mile 13 in 5:40, and I just brought it home for that final little bit to finish the race, dodging some of the 5K runners, and I crossed the line completely exhausted.
Oh yeah. You know we got the vibes here in Newport. You know we got the vibes here at the NYC Runs, New Jersey Half Marathon and 5K.
Yeah, so that did not go to plan. I'll go more in depth later on when I'm less tired and when I can fully collect my thoughts. I kept telling myself, stay as relaxed as possible for as long as possible. And that's been my thing this whole prep. And before that too. Because that's really what you need to do with running, is you just gotta stay relaxed. I do not feel good. You need these days to teach you it's not always easy, to humble you a bit. I wanted to run 2.5 minutes faster than I did, but that doesn't mean I'm not in good shape. That doesn't mean I'm not going to hit my goal for New York. It's just another stepping stone. But we're going to finish it up with a 3-mile cool down, get something to eat with my friends, and call it a day, because I am tired and I am going to eat a lot of food. So we'll see you then. So it is actually a few days after the race. It's Tuesday, and on Sunday, which was the day after the race, I wrote down a few things, just my thoughts. You know, Eli, I like to give myself some time, whether it's a really good or really bad race, to really collect my thoughts and think more about the race. Because if it's a really good or really bad race, you're really high on whatever emotion you're feeling. So you really want to take some time to think about the race, think about how it went, instead of going based off of your emotions, because a lot of negative thoughts can go in your head about training, weather, and all this other stuff, excuses. But you really want to take the time and absorb what happened, to learn from it and move on. So you just saw the whole breakdown of the race. I walked you through it. So I'm going to talk about, the negatives and the positives that I'm taking away from this race to be able to improve and hit my goal of sub 2:30 in New York. So here's what went on in my head after the race. Maybe I should have went with that group that was running probably 5:20 or a little bit under 5:20 for those first 3 miles. Maybe it would have been easier to run with them when we hit that waterfront and when we were battling the rain and the wind, instead of running it all by myself. And same with that part that was quiet. Maybe it would have felt more competitive, more like a race if I was with them. But at the same time, maybe those 5-10 seconds per mile would have been too much for me, would have been going out too hard, and then it would have hit the wind and it would have been much worse. So you never know how things are going to work out. The next thing is, maybe I'm not in as good a shape as I think I am. But I have to think, I ran a 9.3 mile race with 475 feet of elevation gain at about 5:24 pace 11 weeks ago. I am in much better shape now than I was back then, and I just ran 13.1 on a pretty flat course, only had about 75 feet of elevation gain, and I ran that at an average of 5:28 pace. Those two are not comparable, so obviously something wasn't right on that day, but I know it's not my fitness. I'm definitely in good shape, but of course the first thing people think about is, maybe I'm not doing enough, or maybe I didn't recover well enough. No, there's definitely real reasons. You don't want to blame your fitness. If you've been putting in the work, you're fine. So the next thing that came into my mind was, I thought this course was closer to 200 feet in elevation gain, but this one only had about 75 feet. So I was a little annoyed, because there's a race that I felt like I would have enjoyed and raced better at that's a week later, which is the Empire State Half Marathon. The race is run really well. It's competitive and it's a beautiful area to run. It's very conducive to running fast. So I wanted to do that, but I thought this course was a bit hillier. But I have to remember, the Jersey City Half Marathon is 5 weeks before the New York City Marathon, and the Empire State Half Marathon was 4 weeks before. And I'm doing the LVI 18 miler, and that one's 3 weeks before the New York City Marathon. So the timing worked out better to do the Jersey City one. I was just a little annoyed that I thought there was more elevation and I could have run at a faster and better course and hit my 70-minute goal. But again, it didn't work out that way. The timing was better for Jersey City. And the last one here is, maybe I should have wore a different hat or a different shirt, or I should have wore half tights instead of split shorts, or different shoes. None of that really matters. It was just really windy at that one part where I was running alone and it was really rainy. Call it an excuse or a reason. It's not because of the hat or the shoes or the shorts. It's because of the weather, and I was running by myself. But there's always positives that come out of a bad race. Sometimes you have to dig for those reasons. Sometimes you have to let yourself think for a day. And sometimes someone has to tell it to you. The first thing is it was a 13.1 mile race. No matter what the outcome was time-wise, it was still 13.1 miles of hard effort. You're getting one step closer to the goal. You're putting a hard effort out, you're racing, and you're getting better. The second positive is it didn't go to plan, so that adds fuel to the fire. People say that a lot, and it's true because I know I can break 70 minutes. And yes, if I did that, it would have added a ton of confidence. It would have been a great step moving towards sub 230, but it didn't happen. So I'm annoyed because I wanted to do it and I know I can do it. So it just leaves me wanting more, and I'm going to work even harder these next 4.5 weeks to get to that sub 230 at New York City. So the third positive to take away from this is it was a lot more challenging mentally than if it had gone to plan. And yes, there were points where I was mentally defeated, where the wind had pushed and I had not given the same energy back and I was slowing down. But I kept picking myself back up, telling myself, come on, at least hit this pace. Try to catch some runners. Try to run 5:20 pace again, 5:30 pace. You're almost there. You're almost out of the wind. I was not even close to out of the wind, but you have to tell yourself those things. So at the end of the day, this was a good experience, and it is making me better for the New York City Marathon. In the next video, I'm going to take you through an entire week of training, which is going to include cross-training, regular runs, workouts, lifts, and the longest run I've ever done in my life. Thank you so much for watching and following along my journey training for my first marathon at the New York City Marathon in 5 weeks. We got better today.